Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to look at some wild stories of r/no sleep. For those tuning in for the first time, each day I read real stories from Reddit. Perfect for decompressing, finding a moment of tranquility, or simply enjoying a quiet break during your studies. Before we dive in, share in the comments where you're tuning in from. And if you're keen on more content of this nature, make sure to hit that subscribe button. So get comfortable, prepare your favorite snack, and let's begin exploring today's stories. Overnight at the big box store, never plug in the pony after 1:59 a.m. I'm 32 female, and I took the 10 p.m. 6 a.m. restocking shift at a dying big box store because insomnia pays better when you're moving pallets. The store is one of those everything barns on the edge of town. Fluorescents, concrete, aisles named like airport gates. The carpets are sticky where there isn't concrete. The smell is stale popcorn, PVC, and the sadness of seasonal merchandise. On my first night, the manager, Mr. Keen, 50s male, moustache like a parenthesis, handed me a laminated sheet titled Overnight Guidelines. He did it without eye contact, like he was passing me a note in class. No balloon inflation after 1:45 a.m. Do not face the dolls to the cameras. If a child in a red coat is seen on any feed, page attendant to Pony Corral, and do not look at aisle 14 during the announcement. The animatronic pony Sugarhoof is never to be plugged in after 1:59 a.m. If you hear carousel music from the garden center, zone electronics and keep your back to the sliding doors until the melody finishes. If you must enter the back hallway labeled returns only, count to 60 before turning right. Do not scan any item that scans at 0.00. Place in blue bin. Do not write a report. I laughed like a normal person would when handed a corporate creepypasta. He didn't. He said, "You're assigned to toys and seasonal. Shelby will show you the baler." He pointed to a girl with glitter nails and an expression like she'd seen every flavor of midnight. Shelby, 27, female, blessedly blunt, took me to Pony Corral, a ring of half walls where the store used to host birthday rides. The animatronic pony was the size of a Great Dane and the color of a cappuccino. Its vinyl mane had static cling. A laminated saddle blanket read, "Sugar Hoof TM, press button for fun." The button was scarred white from children's thumbs. "Never plug it in after 1:59, Shelby said, quoting the sheet like gospel. "We unplug at 10:30. "What happens if you do?" "Don't," she said. "Just don't." The first hours were normal in the way fluorescent night shifts are normal. I learned to split a pallet with a box cutter like a surgeon in a bad dream. I learned to zone, front every box so the aisle looks like a set piece no one touches. I learned that the store plays a loop of 6 songs, and by the second night I could time my break by the second chorus of Kokomo. At 1:43 a.m., Shelby paged me, attendant to Pony Corral. Her voice was carefully casual. I pushed my U-boat, the long rolling shelf cart, not the submarine, to toys. The big security monitor above the aisle map was divided into 16 feeds. In square 9, aisle 14 looked fine. Barbie on one side, dinosaur heads on the other. In square 12, another angle, there was a glitch like a smudge. "Watch," Shelby said, pointing with a pencil. An announcement chimed, "Attendant to Pony Corral." The feeds hiccuped to the next 10-second loop. In square 12, just beyond the end cap of board games, a little figure stood half-turned to the camera. Red coat, hood up, small, like 6 or 7. The face was turned away, chin down, like a child deciding whether they are allowed to be seen. The announcement ended. The next 10-second loop, the figure was gone. "Kids in a red coat," Shelby said like she was bored. Her hand shook. "We should check the aisle," I said, already pushing the cart. "Don't," she said, and when I looked at her, she was already walking the other way. Calm as a person choosing the left fork in a familiar nightmare. Zone electronics. Keep your back to the sliding doors till the music stops. What music? As if I'd asked a stage cue, carousel music jingled faintly from the direction of garden. Off-key, slow, like someone had recorded a birthday and stretched it over a roller. My skin did that cold pinprick thing. I am not superstitious. I am not brave either. I am practical, which is a third thing entirely. I went to electronics and arranged phone cases with my back to the big glass doors while the cold night pressed like a face outside. The carousel tune hiccuped, looped, then stopped. The heaters in the ceiling exhaled, and the store pretended to be just a store again. At 1:58 a.m., I passed Pony Corral. The pony's power cord lay like a sleeping snake across the floor. The outlet had a sticker on it in red, "Do not use after 1:59. The cutoff felt like a dare. I didn't plug it in. I am sometimes an idiot, but not a suicidal one. At 2:14 a.m., Mr. Keene stated to no one in particular, "I'm going to walk receiving," and left us to our aisles like a captain with a leaky ship. Shelby taught me to ignore the security feed when the screen ghosted. "If you lock your eyes to a thing," she said, "you tell it you'll be there next time." I asked if she was messing with me. She said, "I wish." Near 3 a.m., I heard the hiss-hum of the sliding doors by Garden do that thing. But the motion sensor picks up motion it denies is there. I kept my back to it. My back itched like a target. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the reflection of red in a TV screen. Just a smear, like a coat moving past. At 3:12, the carousel tune chimed again, too quick, like a laugh. I made myself face the televisions and said to my own reflection, "You're imagining this." And my reflection, sweaty, tired, hair in a bun, said it back. At 3:17, I did what my worst self always does. I looked up. Square 12 showed aisle 14 again, and there was the red coat child closer to the camera this time, hands bunched in the hem the way kids do when they are about to ask for something they doubt they deserve. The hood shadowed the face. The Pony Corral camera, square 4, caught a flicker of movement like fingers drumming the fiberglass of the saddle. Tap, tap, tap. I reached for the intercom. My thumb hovered over page. Then the store speakers boomed, "Attendant to Pony Corral." It was Mr. Keene. He was standing behind me, pale. "Don't look at aisle 14 during the announcement," he said, smooth as the laminate. He pressed page again, like a parent calling a dog out of a thorn bush. "Attendant to Pony Corral?" I looked at aisle 14 anyway. The red coat child had turned, very slightly, towards the camera. Not enough to reveal a face, just enough to show a gap where the face should be. A soft concavity like the inside of a doll's head before the features are painted. I gasped. Reflex. The gap trembled, pleased. Mr. Keene clapped his hands in front of my eyes. "Stop," he said. He paged it again. "Attendant to Pony Corral." The carousel music wound down like a carousel realizes it is alone. Square 12 returned to nothing. "Why the pony?" I asked, throat dry. "Because it's a promise," he said. "Because it's easy to keep. Because it's the one we can keep." He didn't explain. People who have been on night shift a long time often forget how to use verbs near the truth. That was night 1. I went home at 6 a.m. and tried to sleep while the store buzzed in my nerves. Night 2, the guidelines turned from jokes to rules. It started with a doll. We stock the baby aisle with vinyl infants whose eyes open if you sit them up and close if you lay them down. When I arrived to zone, every doll faced the camera. That isn't how I left it. I turned them back to face the aisle. The posture that tells customers, we are here to be purchased, not to watch. I turned the corner for a second. When I came back, every doll faced the camera again. Eyes open, smiles severe. I am a rational person. I thought Shelby was messing with me. I whispered, "Okay, funny," and rotated one doll back. I counted under my breath to 10 and turned to my cart and then back. The doll had moved, not turned, moved. 2 inches closer to the edge of the shelf, as if a small weight had leaned into the world. I turned them all quickly to face forward. I put a roll of shelf labels in front of the camera like a blink. When I took it down, the feed showed the dolls politely minding their business. I exhaled. In Pony Corral, the pony's glass eyes had been painted at some point, with a gloss that never lost light. It has one of those animatronic mouths like a puppet, hinge concealed by rubber lip. When you plug it in during the day, it stamps, whinnies, and says yee-haw in a voice an engineer thought was joy. At night, unplugged, it looks like a horse that used to be alive. Shelby flicked his ear. "It hears the announcement," she said low. "That's why we page." "Why 1:59?" I asked. Because too high is when it decides it's dark enough to be brave, she said. You're kidding. I wish, she said again, same tone. We made it to 156 and Mr. Keene did his walk and the garden doors hummed and the balloon cylinder in party swayed like someone passed it. At 158, I checked the pony's cord. It was unplugged. At 2:01, something in the garden centre knocked. 3 polite taps like a person at a neighbour's door. I told myself it was wind. The carousel tune stuttered. I zoned to the rhythm of Do Not Face the Dolls to the cameras in my head like a heartbeat. At 2:37, I went to receiving to get another pallet and passed the hallway labelled Returns Only. The sign was more worn than the others, like people had touched it without meaning to. Like a lucky charm. The guideline said, if you must enter the back hallway labelled Returns Only, count to 60 before turning right. I did not plan to enter. The hallway smelled like wet cardboard and old lemons. My feet turned of their own accord, like the floor sloped. I stood at the threshold and counted to 10, then 20. At 30, something like a breath moved across my cheek. Not air, intention. I counted to 60 because I am a person who knows how rules and consequences connect like plugged-in cords and electricity. At 60, I turned right. The hallway shorted into what my eyes thought was a longer hallway, but my feet thought was a corner. I stepped back. The space resumed behaving itself. I did not enter. I retrieved my pallet and went back to toys and kept my back to the sliding doors when the carousel music played. The night pretended to be my colleague. I pretended to believe it. At 3:03, Shelby paged, attendant Pony Corral. I reported, obedient, and we watched the feeds. Aisle 14 was empty, and then it wasn't. The red coat had the posture of a kid using all their bravery. The pony's ear twitched, or maybe it didn't. Who is she? I asked. The pronoun was a guess that felt right in my teeth. Shelby picked at the hem of her safety vest. No one, she said. Everyone. Did a kid? She's not a ghost, Mr. Keene said, appearing with the kind of silent boss walk that still makes me swear. She's a pattern. She's a reminder. She's the store asking a question. What question? Will you keep the promise? He said. What promise? Pony rides at 2, he said simply. We used to run them in the 90s, every Saturday 2 p.m, and on season resets at 2 a.m, when we got behind, plug in Sugarhoof, and make her dance while we turned the floor overnight for morning. Somebody told somebody else every lie a retail worker learns. We're almost done. It's only temporary. No one will get hurt. We'll lock up after we're finished. Shelby added, we locked up after we were finished. Then why? You're asking the wrong tense, he said. We lock up after we finish. We are always finishing. We always will be overnight. At 3:18, the carousel tune played itself backward. I do not have language for how I knew it was backward. I only know my spine ran like spilled soda to my toes. The announcement bonged, attendant Pony Corral. This time I listened. I let the voice call like I had a whistle in my throat I couldn't swallow. In my peripheral vision, square 12 showed the red coat, closer. The hood tilted. The not face was a polite missing thing, not a wound, not a void, a placeholder, a button you press when you want to be seen. I paged back, attendant to Pony Corral. My thumb shook. Shelby grabbed my wrist. Don't talk to her, she whispered. You'll tell her you can hear. We can hear, I said. Let the policy answer, Mr. Keene said. He paged the phrase again, impersonal, the way any store speaks to a person, through script. The red coat blurred. The pony stilled. The knight turned a page and pretended to read something else. I went home and researched the store's history, like a woman who can't agree with her own bones. The building used to be part of Sunshine Mall, dead before I was born. The carousel was the anchor attraction. A child went missing in 1998. The old paper used the phrase believed to have wandered. No body, no closure. The store built on the bones kept none of the signage but one of the party horses, repurposed with animatronics. I told myself the red coat was my brain making a connection to on the nose. The pony was a prop. The guidelines were a hazing ritual. I told myself a lot of adult things. Then I broke rule 4. It was my 4th night. I noted the symmetry, which is the kind of dumb poetry our minds do to kill us. Shelby called out with something like strep. It was just me and Mr. Keene and two freight guys who kept to lumber and plumbing, their world of straight lines and weights. At 1:54, the garden doors sighed a no like a breath. At 1:57, Mr. Keene paged attendant to Pony Corral like he was warding the room. At 1:58, I stood inside Pony Corral with my hands on the saddle, thumbs pressed into fake leather, feeling the ghost of 1,000 booster seats. At 1:59, the pony's power plug lay at my feet, prongs catching the light like teeth. The outlet had the red sticker. The second ticked. The world said its name, Tukabam. I am not brave. I am a person who has made mistakes big and small and believes you are only brave after you wish you had been braver. I plugged in the pony at 2:01. Sugarhoof came to life with a jerk. The head tossed, the eyes lit from within with a Christmas light certainty. The mouth opened and a voice said, "Yee," and then cut itself, like it remembered it was not supposed to speak this late. The mechanism whirred under the fiberglass as it tried to decide between dance and stillness. The carousel music came from garden, on cue. But slow. I pressed the fun button because humans are apes whose hands can't not press. The pony stamped. In security square 12, aisle 14, slanted. It did not change. My eyes changed. There was a space where the aisle wasn't. A half aisle, like a blink. The floor there was carpet, not concrete. The shelves were shallower. A plastic sign hung at a tilt. 1412, seasonal clearance. We do not have a 1412. Our map does not admit it. In 1412, the red coat stood very still, hands at sides now, waiting. The hood turned toward a Pony Corral, which is a direction no camera can see. It looked the way a map looks when a city has been bulldozed, but still remembers its streets. The pony whickered. The speakers whispered, "Attendant to Pony Corral." It was Mr. Keene, but his voice tripped on the middle words, like he wanted to say a different phrase and kept swallowing it. I leaned over the half wall and said, "God help me. Do you want a ride?" The speakers cracked. Mr. Keene slammed his palm on the all-call button. "Attendant to Pony Corral. Attendant to Pony Corral. Attendant to..." The pony's eyes blinked. The red coat took one step toward the edge of the knot aisle, foot poised in courtesy above what wasn't floor. The faceplate stayed smooth. My throat pulled tight enough to ping. "Stop talking to it," Mr. Keene hissed. He unplugged Sugarhoof. The pony sagged mid-toss, like grace denied. The garden doors bellowed a long, defiant exhalation, like wind peeing through a flute. Square 12 cut back to real. 14-1-2 was gone. My knees went damp. The carpet that wasn't had left a smell, old popcorn kernels trodden into felt. Mr. Keene put his hand on my shoulder. "Don't ever plug it in after 1:59, he said, too late. I started. "I know what you just," he said. He relaminated his face into manager neutral. "Go zone plush." I went to plush. Every teddy was faced to the shelf. One, a cheap brown bear with a crooked ribbon, had its tag turned up and a name printed on it in a child's all caps, with a heart for the dot on the eye. Maisie. We do not carry bears with kids' names on them. That is not a Scooby cell. I took it to a scanner. 0.0 beeped on the screen. The guideline said, "Do not scan any item that scans at 0.0. Place in blue bin. Do not write a report." I put the bear in the blue bin under the register that tastes like pennies. I did not write a report. For an hour, the store was a store. At 3:08, the TV wall glitched. The leftmost screen, which had been playing a fishing show, flickered to a security feed angle I had not seen. It showed an aisle with a carousel horse as an end cap prop, muzzle flaked. It showed a mall corridor. It showed people in clothes a little too neon to be now. It showed a red coat, not a child's coat, a woman's. There was a hand holding it. The arm ended off frame. The coat turned toward the camera. The knot face was larger, smooth as a mannequin. I reached for the remote like, you can change input on a problem. The screen cut back to barges and a host with a beard about lures. Mr. Keene paged the pony again, softly, like prayer. I made it to 6 a.m. I drove home past the empty Olive Garden and the dead bowling alley and the two-chair barbershop where old men read 6 a.m. newspapers. I slept like someone closing a door behind me with their foot, because their arms are full. When I woke at noon, my phone had one voicemail. It was carousel music. In the background, a child's voice. I waited. Not accusing, just a fact. The timestamp was 2:06 a.m. Not when the call came, but when it had been made. The caller ID was unknown. The duration was 1:59. Update 1, 3 nights later. Shelby came back pale and a little angry at nothing in particular, the way you are when you've had a fever dream and wake up to sunlight that looks wrong. "Don't plug the pony in," she said, not as a joke. "I know," I said. "You did," she said. "Yes," I said. "We shoved a pallet of Easter grass that still smells like petroleum into seasonal." She said too brightly, "Did Keen tell you about the recall?" "What recall?" 1999, she said. "Pony saddles, the straps snapped. No kids died here. But at other stores," she swallowed, "they changed the hardware. But the corral always asks for the old script. Pony rides at 2. Pony rides at 2, she echoed. Every Saturday, every overnight reset. We had a cashier once who kept bringing in her toddler when she couldn't find a sitter. He wore a red coat. This was back when we still had a quarter machine that made the pony go for a minute, and she'd let him press. A regional manager walked through one night and wrote her up. Then he got stuck in the freight elevator for 2 hours, and when he came out, he wrote himself up for failure to respect circumstances. He quit 2 weeks later. Not because of us. Because the song kept showing up in his car radio. "You're making this up," I said, "because even when you are honest online, you lie to yourself in person." "I wish," she said a third time, and I realized that was the only honest mood left. At 1:33 a.m., we heard balloons pop from party with no one in the aisle. At 1:44, the helium tank sighed a word I do not know how to spell. At 1:52, Mr. Keen paged the pony, and I counted my breaths, and the garden doors hummed, and I faced electronics and kept my back to the dark. At 2:06, a guest service call button in aisle 14 chirped even though those are disabled at night. The light on its tiny face winked red. I turned the corner. Aisle 14 was longer. It started at the store and ended in a mall. Not fully, enough. You know how a smell can take you somewhere your muscles remember? It was like that, but with light, neon that wasn't. The red coat stood at the end cap, one hand resting on the stack of chutes and ladders, like a person deciding whether to knock. I paged, "Attendant to Pony Corral." Mr. Keen's voice layered mine like a cord. The red coat turned, almost, and then smoothed back into absence. A little hand, just the suggestion of one, came out of the sleeve, palm up, like someone asking for a quarter for a ride. I had one. A quarter, warm from my pocket. Don't ask me why I did what I did. Rules and me have always had a polite relationship until 2 a.m. I set the quarter on top of chutes and ladders and said, "There's your ride." The quarter rolled, impossible physics slow, down the end cap, did not fall, and disappeared at the edge of the knot aisle. The pony in the corral, unplugged, tossed its head once. The carousel tune started and immediately cut. A breath, satisfied, stood up in the aisle and looked at me like, "You did it right this time." Then it went. I am not here to convince you ghosts exist. I am here to tell you that some stores remember promises, and some people are made of promises, and we owe exactly what we say we do. At 3:18, the feed showed a shadow walking past 14 again. No coat, taller. The movement of a woman who remembers how to walk in heels. The pony whickered softly in its unplugged throat, like memory irritates wires. We closed at 6. The sun came up like it always does, as if every night were a rumor. I drove home and slept, and when I woke there was a bear named Maisie on my kitchen chair. No tag. The fur had that old mall shuttle bus smell. I didn't bring it home. I don't know how it came. I put it outside my apartment door in the hall. When I opened the door again 3 hours later, it was gone. In its place, a carousel token. Not a quarter, brass, stamped with a horse and the words "Sunshine Mall" and "Admit One." It weighed more than it should. I brought the token to work at night, like you bring a relic to a saint you don't like. Update 2, a week later. Mr. Keen called a meeting at 9:58 p.m. in seasonal. He looked older. You can age a decade overnight if the store you manage decides it wants to be a church. We're decommissioning Sugar Hoof, he said. Corporate approved it. We'll wheel it to receiving and send it to auction. Shelby nodded so fast it looked like she had a fever. The freight guy's fist bumped. I felt something in my spine say no, like I had been taught to. Rules are weird. You can obey them so well that you start making new ones to fill your emptiness. Tonight, he said, before 2. We wheeled the pony on a flatbed through the dead middle of the store. It looked obscene, like moving a saint through a food court. People on the feeds, yes, there are people at night drifting, cleaning, hugging the corners like they shouldn't be seen, watched us without turning their heads. A child's voice on the intercom hummed an unsong. The garden doors hiccuped. One slid 3 inches and stopped, like a mouth forgetting a word. We put Sugar Hoof in receiving behind the baler. Mr. Keene taped a bright orange lot tag to its ear. Auction. He unplugged it. It was already unplugged. He unplugged it again, the way you double-check a goodbye with the same words you said before. That's that, he said. At 1:59 a.m., we were in toys facing out Nerf darts when the sliding doors in garden did something they had never done while I watched. They opened all the way. The night outside wasn't the parking lot. It was a spill of dark with a carousel in it. I know how dramatic that sounds. I have deleted and retyped that sentence 5 times. The carousel wasn't full. 1 horse, brass pole, lights dim and patient, music like teeth on a ring pull. I forced my back to the doors. The glass reflected my skinny shoulders and the outline of a horse's head where the Halloween inflatables should have grinned. Shelby said, "Don't look." I'm not. You are, she said, because she is my friend and knows the shape of my eyes. The intercom clicked. Attendant to Pony Corral. But the corral was empty now. The page fell into a silence I recognized from funerals. The feeds flicked and wouldn't land. In square 12, aisle 14 grew longer like a breath in. The sign 1412 seasonal clearance swung on an invisible AC gust. At the end of the not aisle, the red coat stood. Next to it, for the first time, a taller coat. Red. A grown-up's. A void where the face should be. Not empty, but withheld. 2 hands, one small, one big. The big one squeezed once, twice, our family signal for exit now. The garden doors closed with a reluctant sigh. The feed went flat. The pony in receiving whinnied, unplugged. We heard the mechanism grind and stop, like a thing trying to remember if it once belonged to a song. Mr. Keene ran. We followed. Receiving smelled like cardboard and winter. Sugar Hoof stood where we had left it, ear tagged with auction. The plug dangled, the saddle blanket hung straight. The eyes, which are just bulbs, were off, but the concrete beneath its hooves was wet. 2 small circles like places where ice had sat and cried. Mr. Keene put both hands on the pony's neck like a priest blessing a machine. He said, "No more rides." The pony's mouth opened once. He flinched. It closed. "Let's tarp it," he said, voice shaking. We did, blue plastic, loud. He taped the tarp like a mummy. "Let it go," Shelby whispered, to the tarp or to the store or to me, I don't know. At 2:26, the TV wall in electronics all blinked to the Sunshine Mall carousel at once. Not footage, atmosphere, sun-faded banners, a bench with gum fossils. The camera angle was low, like a child looking up. A hand in a red coat sleeve reached for the brass pole. Another hand, a grown one, covered it. The picture froze. The picture thawed. The anchors returned to nature shows and cooking reruns. I realized I had been holding my breath the entire minute, and my hands had gone to sleep. I had the brass Admit 1 token in my pocket. It felt hot now. When I took it out, letters had pressed into my palm like a stigmata. Admit backwards. I swallowed because I had the thought that tokens want to be spent. Near 3, the intercom stuttered. I paged the line like a lifeline. Attendant to Pony Corral. The words sounded useless and necessary, like a bedtime story you tell even after the child is grown and gone. The red coat did not come to the feed. The not aisle stayed gone. The pony under the tarp made no sound, but the tarp's corner lifted once, like breath. We closed at 6. When I got home, the Maisie bear sat on my doormat. I did not bring it inside. I put the carousel token in my freezer because that is what I do with things I don't know how to fix. Update 3. Tonight. I'm writing this in the break room on my phone with the sound of the soda machine like rain. If I leave and come back, this draft might be gone. The rules here have learned to read. At 1:40 a.m., a man came to guest services wearing a reflective vest but no name tag. He had eyes like concrete, textured, unhelpful. He said, "I'm here for the pony." He had a clipboard that said Third Party Hall, Auction Lot 771. Mr. Keene checked the order. It existed. He initialed absent-mindedly. People who work nights initial a lot of things we don't remember. The man wheeled sugar hoof, still tarped, through receiving. The pony on the flatbed looked like a body under a blanket on a TV show that does not have the budget to show a corpse. He went toward the overhead door. The chain to pull it rattled. The door yawned. Beyond it was not the loading dock. It was not our parking lot. It was a mall corridor. It smelled like sweet pretzels, carpet shampoo, and childhood. A security gate halfway down was stuck. Beyond that, a carousel horse moved without a carousel. The hall guy said, "After you," to nothing. The tarp moved once. He grinned like a person in a story you tell not to children. My skin used my bones like a xylophone. "Stop," I said. My voice squeaked like a receipt printer. "It hasn't been decommissioned. It's not safe." "It's safer than here," he said. Shelby grabbed my wrist so hard I will bruise. "Let him," she whispered. Mr. Keene said nothing. He looked old enough to be my grandfather and also like a boy caught stealing. He put a hand on the flatbed and then snatched it back. He made the sign of the cross with 2 fingers where no one could see. The man wheeled the pony into the mall. The doors rolled down behind him slow, like a joke with a long punchline. The chain clicked. 1, 2, 3. The room smelled like old popcorn kernels again. We stood with our mouths open a little, not enough to be rude to the night. At 1:59, they were gone. At 2:06, the intercom didn't page the pony. It paged our names, not our last names, not associates. Our first names, said like our mothers say them when we are late. Shelby to Pony Corral, D to Pony Corral, Mr. Keene to Pony Corral. The voice was a child using her best store voice. It sounded grateful, is the scariest part. We stood in Pony Corral, empty, like mourners at a grave with no stone. I put my palm on the half wall where 1,000 sticky hands have slapped. The laminator was warm, like breath, like a cheek. I said to the air or to whatever waits beyond it, "I hope you got your ride." The garden doors stayed shut. The feeds showed only aisles and flicker. Aisle 14 did not lengthen. The dolls kept their eyes on their boxes. The store, for once, felt like a store at night, instead of a church that had lost its God. I went to the break room to write this because I told Mr. Keene I wanted a record. He said, "Don't. The store reads the papers we leave around." "Reddit isn't paper," I said. He said not unkindly, "Night has thumbs, so here is my record. If someone on nights somewhere else gets a laminated overnight guidelines with rules that feel like dares, they are not dares. They are rails. Hold them. Don't plug it in after 1:59. Don't face the dolls to the cameras because cameras teach eyes to want. If you hear the carousel music, keep your back to the doors because the night does not need your eyes to open them. If a thing scans 0 Udaruram, it is too expensive to bring home. If the hallway says returns only, believe it. And if a child in a red coat appears on a feed and the announcement says attendant to Pony Corral, page it back and let the policy speak. Because policy is the only prayer Night understands. I took the token out of my freezer before this shift. I brought it with me. It is in my pocket now, warm from my thigh. I keep feeling the letters admit pressing my skin like a suggestion. I will put it in the slot of the old gumball machine in the break room that no one uses anymore because the gum tastes like shirts. If it falls with a clink like it belongs to this world, I'll throw it away. If it doesn't fall, if it rolls somewhere impossible, I will know we kept a promise. I think the red coat was a mother once. I think the small one was a daughter. I think the pony was the only bridge they could agree to walk. I think the store let them meet in the middle because stores understand commerce, and this was, in its awful way, an exchange. Shelby just poked her head in. Carousel music, she whispered. I don't hear it, I said. You won't, she said. It's in garden. It's very soft. Do I need to? No, she said. We did it right. We don't owe it tonight. Mr. Keene just walked by, eyes wet. He didn't look at us. He went to the intercom and paged a thing. He will tell corporate he did not. Happy birthday. The speakers carried it like a secret. I am going to post this now because the soda machine has hiccuped twice, which it does before the power flickers at 3 a.m., and I don't want the night to edit my words. If you work nights, you already know some of this. If you don't, thank whatever God you keep. If you shop in the day and your child asks for a quarter for the old pony, give them one. Press the button in the sun. Clap when the horse goes up and down and the eyes click. Make the promise while the lights are cheap to keep. And if you ever find yourself in a big box store after midnight with a laminated sheet that reads like a dare, obey. Don't be me. Don't be brave when brave is just disobedient dressed up for Instagram. Keep your back to the doors. Keep the dolls from learning your face. Keep the pony unplugged. Sometimes love is the ride. Sometimes love is choosing not to start the song.